Pain is the one thing every human shares. We've carried it since the very beginning. Long before cities, before language, before even us. Every species that ever called itself human, from Homo habilis to Homo erectus, heidelbergensis, and beyond, faced the same truth. To live was to suffer, and sometimes that suffering ended in blood. Even before we learned to speak, we understood pain, the ache of hunger, the burn of fire, the grief of losing one of our own. It's carved into the fossil record, as surely as bones themselves. Deep beneath the hills of northern Spain lies a cavern called Cima de los Huesos, the pit of bones. For hundreds of thousands of years, this cave lay sealed beneath the rock, a tomb untouched by time. When scientists first broke through its narrow shaft, their lights caught glints of ancient bone scattered across the chamber floor. Over 7,000 fragments belonging to at least 28 individuals. At the heart of it, one skull with 2 perfect holes in its forehead. The man wasn't Homo sapiens, he was Homo heidelbergensis, a powerful ancestor from nearly 500,000 years ago. 2 strikes, same angle, same force, not a fall, not an accident, a weapon. Forensic analysis confirmed it. The world's oldest recorded murder. Violence, it seems, is older than humanity itself. Even before we could make fire, we were already capable of rage. And yet Cima de los Huesos offered something more, the earliest hint of ritual behavior. Many of the bones had been intentionally placed deep inside the cave, far from natural entrances. Some anthropologists believe this was no random burial pit, but one of the first known cemeteries. If true, it means our ancestors already understood the concept of death and remembrance. But not every death came from one of our own. Some came from the monsters we lived beside. In the wetlands of ancient Africa, a small figure bends to drink from a still river. He is Homo habilis, one of our earliest ancestors. Unarmed, unaware, the surface ripples. Then chaos. A massive crocodile bursts upward. Crocodilus thorbjarnarsoni, 7 meters long, 2 tons of prehistoric muscle. Its jaws clamp down with the force to crush bone like chalk. And before the water even stills, another predator strikes. A leopard-sized cat tears into what's left. 2 apex hunters, 1 fragile human. The fossil record shows both crocodile tooth marks and feline claw grooves, proof of a double kill by creatures that no longer exist. Sometimes nature didn't choose sides, it simply devoured. For early humans, every step into the wild was a gamble between thirst and death. And for millions of years, the planet itself was the apex predator. Not all deaths were violent. Some came slowly from within. In Kenya, the skeleton known as KNM-ER1808 tells a quieter horror. Her bones were swollen, pitted, scarred. No predator had touched her. Her killer was the food she ate. This woman, Homo erectus, had been eating the livers of carnivores, rich in vitamin A. Too much of a good thing? Her body turned on itself. Bones thickened, organs failed, skin peeled, and joints burned. Nature doesn't need claws to kill. Sometimes it simply feeds you too well. But even this tragedy tells a story of progress. Because to die from eating meat, you first have to be able to hunt it. And Homo erectus had done exactly that. They were the first humans to master fires, to cook, to travel vast distances, from Africa to Europe to Asia. They may have built the first shelters, and their tools, the Acheulean hand axes, were unmatched for nearly 1,000,000 years. Her death, painful as it was proof of a species that had learned to take power over nature, even if it sometimes cost them everything. But if danger came from the ground and from within, it also came from above. Across the plains of southern Africa, a small child wanders, Australopithecus africanus, the famous Taung child. For years, scientists thought a leopard had taken him, but the skull told another story. Tiny punctures beneath the eyes, scratches across the crown. Under the microscope, they matched the hunting marks of eagles. The child had been seized from above, eyes pierced, skull crushed, and carried screaming into the sky. For millions of years, we weren't the hunters, we were lunch. The Taung child's discovery in 1924 wasn't just a fossil, it was a revelation. It proved that our origins lay in Africa, and that even the smallest of our ancestors faced a world full of giants with wings. And even when we finally ruled the earth, nature found new ways to take it back. On the island of Java, Indonesia, a discovery stunned archaeologists. A mass grave of Homo erectus. Dozens of skeletons tangled together. No wounds, no weapons, just silence. The earth around them whispered the truth. Volcanic ash. A nearby eruption had unleashed a lahar, a deadly torrent of boiling mud, rock, and water. That roared down the valley, sweeping everything away. Their last breath became their fossil. The moment a species drowned in history, Homo erectus had survived nearly 2 million years, longer than any human species before or since. They saw ice ages come and go, mountains rise and oceans shift. But even they could not outlast a world that changed faster than they could adapt. Extinction doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. But not all monsters were forces of nature. Some had fur and teeth. In the depths of a cave near Zhoukoudian, China, researchers once believed they'd found a human home, the legendary Peking man. But the skulls were shattered, the bones crushed to powder. Then came the truth. Bite marks, massive, circular, violent. They didn't belong to people. They belonged to Pachyrhina brevirostris, a giant hyena over 150 kilograms, able to bite through skulls like glass. The cave wasn't a shelter, it was a feeding den. And our ancestors weren't hunters there. They were dinner. Modern hyenas are scavengers, but their Ice Age relatives were apex predators. Stronger than lions, faster than wolves, their jaws engineered to crush through bone and armor alike. The same dens still exist today, buried beneath layers of rock, filled with splintered bones and echoes of screams. In those dark places, the line between predator and prey blurred completely. But sometimes, death didn't need beasts or eruptions. Sometimes it was heartbreakingly human. In Kenya, a boy barely 8 years old, known to us as the Turkana boy, suffered from a simple tooth infection. A small abscess spread bacteria into his blood. Sepsis, his ribs twisted, his spine herniated. Too weak to stand, he collapsed face first in a swamp and never rose again. His body fossilized there, a perfect record of agony and endurance. He didn't die in vain. Through him, we learned what it means to be human. The marks on his bones told us our story, that compassion and cooperation may have started with the act of mourning, because where we find his bones, we also find others nearby. As if someone stayed to grieve, the Turkana boy became more than a fossil. He became a symbol of what made us different: empathy, memory, the instinct to care, even when nature didn't. These are not stories of glory. They're stories of pain, the price our ancestors paid for our existence. Murdered, mauled, poisoned, burned, drowned, broken, and yet they endured. Because even in death, they carried evolution forward. Every scar, every tragedy, a step closer to us. We are not just survivors. We are the descendants of those who suffered and kept walking anyway. So the next time you look in the mirror, remember, you're not just looking at yourself. You're looking at the sum of every victory, every wound, and every soul that refused to give up. And if their stories change the way you see the past, join us as we uncover more forgotten chapters of our origin. Subscribe to Edge of Origin, because the past still has stories to tell.